Today is the 7th day of the June 86 retreat. So take any effort to listen to that. We're going to read some passages from Wang Po and some excerpts from the last 2 talks of Krishnamurti. But before we start with this, I'll bring up one more question somebody asked. The question was, can there be awareness and yet an image? Does image always disrupt awareness? One has to look, one has to find out. Whether it is indeed possible to be aware and yet an image is coming up or is there and one is aware of that. It does not disrupt awareness. We talked about something similar a day ago or several days ago. In talking, listening, in this talking, listening process that's going on right now, there are definitely words, memories, images. Do they need to disrupt the state of awareness? In talking to somebody, where there's a definite focus of attention and listening to what somebody says and responding, does it mean that all other awareness has to be shut down? Or can there remain a responsiveness to what's going on around one? It all depends on what the thoughts and images are, their stickiness. If there's attachment, then the mind gets wrapped up, cotton-wooled in the attachment to the thought and image. What comes to mind is that Greek myth about the semi-god Narcissus, who one day in looking into a clear pond discovered his image and immediately fell in love with it. He's a very beautiful man. He couldn't see or hear anything else from that moment. He had to look and gaze at that image. Didn't even hear the sounds of the nymph Echo, who was in love with him. She probably may have had an image of him too. What a wonderful lover he would make. But he didn't hear her. He was so infatuated with that image, he tried to kiss it and embrace it, and he drowned. I think all of us are in that danger of drowning all the time. These selections are from a book called Zen Teaching of Wang Po, translated by John Blofeld. They're never full passages read, they're excerpts, some words left out, to try to make them as accessible as possible. When the word Buddha is used, it is at times used for truth, not the historical man. Sometimes for the awakened mind. The word Dharma is used for teaching, the teaching of the truth, also for the truth. The dialogues and talks were written down, recorded by a disciple of Wang Po, who was a scholar, a Buddhist scholar, and also a government official. The Master said to me, all the Buddhas and all sentient beings are nothing but the one mind, beside which nothing exists. This mind, which is without beginning, is unborn and indestructible. It does not belong to the categories of things which exist or do not exist, nor can it be thought of in terms of young or old. It is neither long nor short, big nor small, for it transcends all limits, measures, names, traces, and comparisons. It is that which you see before you. Begin to reason about it, and you at once fall into error. It is like the boundless void, which cannot be fathomed or measured. The one mind alone is the Buddha, and there's no distinction between the Buddha and sentient beings, but that sentient beings are attached to forms and so seek externally for Buddhahood. By their very seeking, they lose it, for that is using mind to grasp mind. Even though they do their utmost for a full eon, they will not be able to attain it. They do not know that if they put a stop to conceptual thought and forget their anxiety, it will appear before them. The anxiety of, what do I have to do to get it? Or I have to do something to attain it. And all the anxiety that goes with success and failure. Our original nature is in highest truth devoid of any atom of objectivity. It is void, omnipresent, silent, pure. It is glorious and mysterious, peaceful joy. And that is all. Enter deeply into it by awakening into it yourself. That which is before you is it, in all its fullness, utterly complete. There is naught beside it. Even if you go through all the stages of a bodhisattva's progress toward Buddhahood, one by one, when at last in a single flash you attain to realization, you will only be realizing that which has been with you all the time. And by all the foregoing stages, you will have added to it nothing at all. You will come to look upon those eons of work and achievement as no better than unreal actions performed in a dream. Here the disciple asks, what is the way and how must it be followed? Somebody just wrote a note, not from this retreat, it came in the mail and said, I cannot follow you on your road anymore because I feel it is mistaken. So here the question is, what is the way and how must it be followed? And Wang Po says, what sort of a thing do you suppose the way to be, that you should wish to follow it? And the disciple asks, what instructions have the masters everywhere given for meditation practice and the study of the Dharma, or the study of the truth? What instructions have been given for meditation practice by the masters everywhere? And Wang Po says, words used to attract the dull of wit are not to be relied upon. The disciple asks, if those teachings were meant for the dull-witted, I have yet to hear what truth has been taught to those of really high capacity. And Wang Po says, if they are really people of high capacity, where could they find people to follow? If they seek from within themselves, they will find nothing tangible. How much less can they find a teaching worthy of their attention elsewhere? Do not look to what is called the Dharma or the teaching by preachers. For what sort of Dharma could that be? And the questioner asks, if that is so, should we not seek for anything at all? By conceding this, you would save yourself a lot of mental effort. The disciple says, but in this way everything would be eliminated. There cannot just be nothing. And Wang Po says, who called it nothing? Who was this fellow? But you wanted to seek for something. The questioner says, since there's no need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? See how the logic of the mind, there's nothing to seek, then there can't be anything. And on those words and on that logic we rely, we have faith in that. And it may be a tight system, it may not be representative of what's actually so. Wang Po says, not to seek is to rest tranquil. Who told you to eliminate anything? Look at the void in front of your eyes. How can you produce it or eliminated. The questioner says, if I could reach this Dharma, this truth, would it be like the void? Wang Po says, morning and night I have explained to you that the void is both one and the manifold. I said this as a temporary expedient, but you're building up concepts from it. And the questioner says, do you mean that we should not form concepts as human beings normally do? Wang Po says, I have not prevented you, but concepts are related to the senses, and when feeling takes place, wisdom is shut out. Talked about that. A name and then the reaction, the emotions. Then we don't see anymore what it is that we're reacting to. We're preoccupied or occupied with our emotions and reaction. Questioner says, then should we avoid any feeling in relation to the truth or to the Dharma, to the teaching? Should we avoid any feeling in relation to that? And Wang Po says, where no feeling arises, who can say that you're right? Questioner says, why do you speak as though I was mistaken in all the questions I've asked your reverence? And he says, you're a man who doesn't understand what is said to him. What is all this about being mistaken? The questioner says, up to now you have refuted everything which has been said. You've done nothing to point out the true Dharma to us. Wang Po says, in the true Dharma there is no confusion, but you produce confusion by such questions. What sort of true Dharma can you go seeking for? And the questioner says, since the confusion arises from my questions, what will your reverence's answer be? And Wang Po says, observe things as they are and don't pay attention to other people. There are some people just like mad dogs barking at everything that moves, even barking when the wind stirs among the grass and the leaves. Here he says, what is called supreme perfect wisdom implies that there's really nothing whatever to be attained. If you're also able to understand this, you will realize that the way of the Buddhas and the way of devils are equally wide of the mark. The original pure glistening universe is neither square nor round, big nor small. It is without any such distinction as long or short, and it is beyond attachment and activity, ignorance and enlightenment. You must see clearly that there is really nothing at all. The great chilocosms, numberless as grains of the sand, are mere bubbles. All wisdom and all holiness are but streaks of lightning. None of them have the reality of mind. Mind in which there is no concept of enlightenment, Buddha's wisdom, holiness. When we talk of the knowledge I may gain, when we talk of the knowledge I may gain, the learning I may achieve, my intuitive understanding, my deliverance from rebirth, and my moral way of living, our successes make these concepts seem pleasant to us, but our failures make them appear deplorable. What is the use of all that? I advise you to remain uniformly quiescent and above all activity. Do not deceive yourselves with conceptual thinking, and do not look anywhere for the truth, for all that is needed is to refrain from allowing concepts to arise. It is obvious that mental concepts and external perceptions are equally misleading, and that the way of the Buddhas is as dangerous to you as the way of the demons. So full understanding can come to you only through an inexpressible mystery. The approach to it is called the gateway of the stillness beyond all activity. If you wish to understand, know that a sudden comprehension comes when the mind is purged of all the clutter of conceptual and discriminatory thought activity. Those who seek the truth by means of intellect and learning only get further and further away from it. Not till your thoughts cease all their branchings here and there, not till you abandon all thoughts of seeking for something, will you be on the right road. He says, give up those erroneous thoughts leading to false distinctions. There is no self and no other. There is no wrong desire, no anger, no hatred, no like, no victory, no failure. Only renounce the error of intellectual or conceptual thought processes, and your nature will exhibit its pristine purity. Unless you understand this, the whole of your great learning, your painful efforts to advance, your austerities of diet and clothing will not help you to a knowledge of your own mind. All such practices must be termed fallacious. What end is served by pursuits like those? He says, let me assure you again that the Buddha dwells not in light, nor sentient beings in darkness, for the truth allows no such distinctions. The Buddha is not mighty, nor sentient beings feeble, for the truth allows no such distinctions. The Buddha is not enlightened, nor sentient beings ignorant, for the truth allows no such distinctions. It is all because you take it upon yourself to talk of explaining Zen. As soon as the mouth is opened, evils spring forth. People either neglect the root and speak of the branches, or neglect the reality of the world and speak only of enlightenment. Or else they chatter of cosmic activities leading to transformations, while neglecting the substance from which they spring. Indeed, there's never any profit in discussion. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind, and you see it for a dream or an illusion. Let me read that again. When a sudden flash of thought occurs in your mind and you see it for a dream or an illusion, then you can enter into the state reached by the Buddhas of the past, not that the Buddhas of the past really exist, or that the Buddhas of the future have not yet come into existence. Above all, have no longing to become a future Buddha or an enlightened being. Your soul's concern should be, as thought succeeds thought, to avoid clinging to any of them. Nor may you entertain the least ambition to be a Buddha here and now. Even if a Buddha arises, do not think of him as enlightened or deluded, good or evil. Hasten to rid yourself of any desire to cling to him. Cut him off in the twinkling of an eye. On no account seek to hold him fast, for 10,000 locks could not stay him, nor 100,000 feet of rope bind him. This being so valiantly strive to banish and annihilate him. I will now make luminously clear how to set about being rid of that Buddha. Consider the sunlight. You may say it is near, yet if you follow it from world to world, you will never catch it in your hands. Then you may describe it as far away, and lo, you will see it just before your eyes. Follow it, and behold, it escapes you. Run from it, and it follows you close. You can neither possess it, nor have done with it. From this example you can understand how it is with the true nature of all things, and henceforth there will be no need to grieve or worry about such things. He says then, beware of going on to say that my recommendation to cut off the Buddha was profane, or that my comparing him to the sunshine was pious, as though I had wavered from one extreme to the other. Then he goes on later, thus all the visible universe is the Buddha, or is truth. So are all sounds. Hold fast to one principle and all the others are identical. On seeing one thing, you see all. On perceiving any individual's mind, you are perceiving all mind. Obtain a glimpse of one way and all ways are embraced in your vision, for there is nowhere at all which is devoid of the way. When your glance falls upon a grain of dust, what you see is identical with all the vast world systems with their great rivers and mighty hills. To gaze upon a drop of water is to behold the nature of all the waters of the universe. Moreover, in thus contemplating the totality of phenomena, you are contemplating the totality of mind. All these phenomena are intrinsically void, and yet this mind with which they are identical is no mere nothingness. By this I mean that it does exist, but in a way too marvelous for us to comprehend. Here he says, when the moment of understanding comes, do not think in terms of understanding, not understanding, or not understanding, for none of this is something to be grasped. This dharma of thusness, just this thusness, when grasped, is grasped, but he who grasps it is no more conscious of having done so than someone ignorant of it is conscious of his failure. I'll read that again. This thusness, when grasped, and grasped is in quotation marks, is grasped, but he who grasps it is no more conscious of having done so than someone ignorant of it is conscious of his failure. As for those people who seek to grasp it through the application of some particular principle, or by creating a special environment, or through some scripture, or doctrine, or age, or through time, or name, or through word, or through their six senses, how do they differ from wooden dolls? Refrain from seeking Buddhahood, since any search is doomed to failure. Some madman shrieking on the mountaintop on hearing the echo far below may go to seek it in the valley. But oh, how vain his search! Once in the valley he shrieks again, and straightway climbs to search among the peaks. Why, he may spend 1,000 rebirths or 10,000 eons searching for the source of these sounds by following their echoes. Far better that you make no sound, for then there will be no echo. No knowing, no sound, no track, no trace. Few people asked about the selection that was read at the end of the last retreat from this bulletin here. We'll read it again. And also an excerpt from the second to last talk by Krishnamurti. These talks were given in Madras, India. And it's taken from the bulletin of the Krishnamurti Foundation of America, Spring-Summer 86. This talk was given on January 1st, 86. We are trying to find out what it means to die while living. Not committing suicide. I'm not talking about that kind of nonsense. I want to find out for myself what it means to die. Which means, can I be totally free from everything that man has created, including myself? What does it mean to die? To give up everything. Death cuts you off with a very sharp razor from your attachments, from your gods, from your superstitions, from your desire for comfort, next life, and so on and on. I'm going to find out what death means because it is as important as living. So how can I find out actually, not theoretically, what it means to die? I actually want to find it out, as you want to find out. What does it mean to die? Put that question to yourself. While we are young, or when you are very old, this question is always there. It means to be totally free, to be totally unattached to everything that man has put together, or what you have put together. Totally free. No attachments, no gods, no future, no past. See the beauty of it, the greatness of it, the extraordinary strength of it, while living to be dying. Do you understand what that means? While you're living, every moment you're dying. so that throughout life you're not attached to anything. That is what death means. So living is dying, you understand? Living means that every day you're abandoning everything that you're attached to. Can you do this? A very simple fact, but it has tremendous implications. So that each day is a new day. Each day you are dying and incarnating. There's tremendous vitality, energy, because there's nothing you're afraid of. There's nothing that can hurt. Being hurt does not exist. All the things that man has put together have to be totally abandoned. That's what it means to die. So can you do it? Will you try it? Will you experiment with it? Not just for a day, every day. Your brains are not trained for this. Your brains have been conditioned so heavily by your education, by your tradition, by your books, by your professors. It requires finding out what love is. Love and death go together. Death says, be free, non-attached. You can carry nothing with you. And love says, there's no word for it. Love can exist only when there's freedom, not from your wife or from a new girl or a new husband, but the feeling, the enormous strength, the vitality, the energy of complete freedom. Here's the last portion of the last talk, January 4th, 86. How can one explain a meditation that has no measurement, that has no achievement, that does not say, I am this, but I will become that? That being God or super angel. Is there a meditation which has nothing to do with will? An energy that says, I must meditate? Is there a meditation which has nothing to do with effort at all? The speaker says there is. You don't have to accept it. He may be talking nonsense, but he sees logically that the ordinary meditation is self-hypnosis, deceiving oneself. And when you stop deceiving, stop all that mechanical process, is there a different kind of meditation? And unfortunately, the speaker says yes. You can't get at it through effort, through giving all your energy to something. It is something that has to be absolutely silent. First of all, begin very humbly, very, very humbly, and therefore very gently, and therefore no pushing, driving, saying, I must do this. It requires a tremendous sense not only of aloneness, but a sense, I mustn't describe it to you because then you'll go off on descriptions. If I describe it, the description is not the real. The description of the moon is not the moon, and the painting of the Himalayas is not the Himalayas. So we'll stop describing. It's for you to play with or not play with, giving your own way, going your own way with your own peculiar achievements through meditation, reward and all the rest of it. So in meditation, which is absolutely no effort, no achievement, no thinking, the brain is quiet, not made quiet by will, by intention, by conclusion and all that nonsense. It is quiet. And being quiet, it has infinite space. Are you waiting for me to explore? So is your brain ever quiet? I'm asking you. Your brain is thinking, fearing, thinking of your office work, of your family, what they will do, your sons and daughters. Thinking which is time and thought. Is your brain ever quiet? Not made quiet by drugs and by whiskey and various forms of drugging yourself. You drug yourself when you believe. You drug yourself and say, yes, this is perfectly right. The Buddha has said that, therefore it must be right. You're drugging yourself all the time. Therefore you have no energy of that kind that demands the penetration of something immense. So we're now going back to find out what creation is. What is creation? It has nothing to do with invention. What is creation? The origin, the beginning. What is life? Tell me what you think of it. What is life? Not going to the office and all the rest of it, sex and children, or no children but sex, and so on and so on and so on. What is a life? What gives life to that blade of grass in the cement? What is life in us? Not all the things that we go through, power, position, prestige, fame or no fame, but shame. That's not life. That's part of our mishandling of life. But what is life? Why are you listening to me? What makes you, if you're listening at all, listen to the man? What is the motive behind your listening? What do you want? What's your desire? Behind the desire, there's a motive. So what is desire? Desire is part of sensation, isn't it? I see this beautiful clock or ugly clock, it's a sensation. The seeing brings about a sensation. From that sensation, thought comes and makes an image of it. That is, I see the clock rather nice, I would like to have it. The sensation of seeing, then thought coming and making an image of that sensation, and at that moment, desire is born. It's very simple. Is there a brain, your brain, which is not muddied by environment, by tradition, by society, and all the rest of it? What is the origin of life? Are you waiting for me to answer it? This is much too serious a subject for you to play with, because we're trying to inquire into something that has no name, no end. I can kill that bird. There's another bird. I can't kill all birds. There are too many of them in the world. So we're inquiring into what makes a bird. What is creation behind all this? Are you waiting for me to describe it, go into it? You want me to go into it? Why? And from the audience, to understand what creation is. And he says, why do you ask that? Because I asked. No description can ever describe the origin. The origin is nameless. The origin is absolutely quiet. It's not worrying about making noise. Creation is something that is most holy. That's the most sacred thing in life. And if you have made a mess of your life, change it. Change it today, not tomorrow. If you're uncertain, Find out why and be certain. If your thinking is not straight, think straight logically. Unless all that is prepared, all that is settled, you can't enter into this world, into the world of creation. It ends. This is the last talk. Do you want to sit together quietly for a while? All right, sirs, sit quietly for a while. May we get up now and go? We will end here for today.